as we have seen in the blockchain that it is a decentralized network. In this decentralized network, there will be a pool of miners will be there. So this pool of miners, they try to collect all the transactions from the participants in that network, and they build a block, and that block will be broadcasted among all the miners. Then based on the majority, based on your proof of work, uh, or your proof of stake consensus mechanism, or your proof of delegate consensus mechanism, the user comes to a conclusion that there will be a winner in the miner. So the winner will get the some incentives, and based on that incentives, the next time the competition will goes on among the miners to build the blocks. And once the majority of miners accept, then that block will be added to the existing blockchain. So that is what we have observed so far. So what are the different risk factors are there based on this consensus mechanism? So we try to discuss these in terms of different issues, how it happen. So we have seen the permissioned blockchains as well as your permissionless blockchains, correct? So in the permissionless blockchains, they followed this proof of work or proof of stake, whereas in permissioned blockchain, they follows the Paxos and your Raft algorithms. So in permission blockchain, we have seen that the state replication will be executes the smart contracts automatically once the transactions get valid, and then once the smart contracts are executed by your state replication machine, then that will be added to your blockchain. So we have seen two types of permission blockchains and permissionless blockchains. So there are some common risks in both the cases. So you'll find that in the blockchain technology that we have seen, there are three different versions of your blockchain technology. One is blockchain operation mechanism one, another one is your blockchain technology two, where blockchain technology two executes the smart contracts, whereas your blockchain technology one executes the based on your proof of work and those things. So there are two types of as the specific risks, which are the development or the deployment of your execution of your smart contracts in the blockchain technology. So we try to categorize the risk factors which comes under this the blockchain operation mechanism of your version point 1.0 version or your 2.0 version. The first one is based on your consensus mechanism. The risk comes based on the consensus mechanism. Can you please tell me what is this 51% vulnerability risk comes?
Uh, if 51% of the computing power of your network is compromised or held by one single actor, they can start pushing through any transaction that they want, as they will be able to verify it with themselves and then add it to the blockchain.
That's correct. Any other points from your side? So it is this vulnerability is because of the consensus mechanism. So we have seen the various consensus mechanism. There it is. Majority of miners should accept the block, right? The collection of transactions. Then that miner become the winner. So then that miner, in terms of your permission, one become the leader. Once become the leader, all the block transactions will be handled by the leader itself. So the leader become the leading role of the blockchain. But if the leader become the attacker, suppose the malpractice, then all the transactions are controlled by the leader or the miner who can do all kind of operations in that. So that is the 51% vulnerability we'll see in details. That is based, this is caused because of the consensus mechanism. And in the blockchain, if you're allowed to add any new block to your blockchain, then it uses the digital signature concept. For doing the digital signature verification purpose, it uses a key generations. That is, private key and public key will be generated. So we have seen the RSA algorithm, how it is going to generate the pair of keys. So this, if the private key of any person or any user in the network compromised, suppose, or stolen by any attacker, then there will not be any recovery for that. So this is because of the public key encryption scheme. This private key risk comes, and we also seen some of the criminal activities. So this criminal activities is based on your cryptocurrency applications. And another concept we have observed in the blockchain technology is double spending. So this double spending is, this risk cause because of your transaction verification mechanism, and the transaction privacy leakage is another risk in this blockchain operation. So that is because of your transaction design flow, whether in the same flow it is updated in the blockchain, or reordering or misordering or any modifications done, that comes under this. So if it is a permissioned blockchain or your closed network, in that also there is a possibility of some risk in the blockchain. That is because of your smart contract executions. So in this smart contract execution, the criminal smart contract execution risk will be there. This causes because of your smart contract applications. And another one is the vulnerabilities in this smart contract uh, that cause because of your program design flow, and the under optimized smart contract risk that cause because of your program writing flow, and the underpriced operation that cause because of your the one of the application like your Ethereum virtual machine, one of the application of your blockchain, that Ethereum virtual machine design flaws. So we'll try to address these one by one. The first one is your 51% vulnerability. So as we all know that the blockchain relies on the distributed consensus mechanism to establish a mutual trust among the miners. So the consensus mechanism itself has a 51% vulnerability, so which can exploited by the attackers to control the entire blockchain. So more precisely, in proof of work based your blockchains, if a single miner, suppose hashing the blocks, a single miner, hashing the blocks by collecting the transactions from various users in the network, and if a single miner's hashing power accounts for, suppose, for more than 50% of the total hashing power of the entire blockchain, then the 51% attack may be launched. So hence the mining power concentrating in a few mining pools may result in the fears of an inadvertent situation, such as your single pool control more than half of the what you call the all computing power. So in 2004, I mean 2014, one paper was published with the author name called John. So they identified this 51% the vulnerability. So after the mining pool, the G hash that IO, when it is reached to 42% of the total Bitcoin computing power, a number of miners voluntarily dropped out of the pool, and the hashing function, which is issued a press statement to the reassure the Bitcoin community that it would avoid the reaching the 51% threshold. So in proof of stake based blockchain, that 51% attack may also occur if the number of coins owned by a single miner in more than 50% of the total blockchain. So by launching this 51% attack, an attacker can arbitrarily manipulate or modify the blockchain information. So especially the attacker can exploit this vulnerability to conduct the various attacks on the block of your blockchain, like reversing the transactions and initiate the double spending attack, or exclude and modify the ordering of your transactions in the same order. The transaction ordering may be changed, and they may hamper the normal mining, the operations of your other miners, and that gives the impact of the impede the confirmation operation of your normal attacks in that. So this is a common risk in the blockchain. So there are a lot of research work is going on this, how to find a solution for this 51% vulnerability. So the another one which we used is another common risk factor is your private key. So in this private key, as we discussed in the previous lecture classes, that when using the blockchain, uh, the user's private key is regarded as the identity and security credentials, so which is generated and maintained by any of the individual users instead of your third party agencies. So for example, when Alice creating a cold storage wallet in Bitcoin blockchain, the user must import the Alice private key here. So to generate the private key, as we discussed that in blockchain technology 2.4, they use the elliptic curve digital signature algorithm instead of your the RSA algorithms. So in this elliptic curve digital signature algorithm, one of the author who's got the Hardway, uh, who discovered some vulnerabilities in the elliptic curve digital signature algorithm. So although which an attacker can recover the user's private key, because it does not generate the enough randomness during the signature process compared to your RSA algorithm. So once the user's private key is suppose stolen by any of the attacker in the network, suppose, then it will not be able to be recovered. If the private key is stolen by suppose criminal, then the user blockchain account will face the risk of being tampered by others. So since the blockchain is not dependent on any centralized third party trusted institution, so if the user's private key is suppose stolen, then it is difficult to track the criminal's behavior and recover the modified blockchain information. So this is another common risk in the blockchain, because the private key is basically used for signing the messages, as that when you are going to create a new block, you are going to use the previous block hash to create a new block. So previous hash and previous nuns are used, to create a new block. In that, in hashing algorithm, you are going for the digital signature verification in proof of work or proof of stake. So that is another, difficulties. So then the another common, the application difficulties that is observed in this blockchain technology application is your criminal activities. So in the criminal activity, the Bitcoin users can have the multiple Bitcoin addresses, right, in the network, because they may use their different private keys and public keys to create their identity in the blockchain. So when the users can have multiple Bitcoin addresses and the address has no relationship with their real life identity, because they create their own, I mean, the private keys and public keys. So therefore, the Bitcoin has been used in the illegal activities also. So through some third-party trading platform that support Bitcoin, so users can buy or sell products. So since this process is the anonymous and decentralized one, so it is hard to track, some of the activities. Uh, I mean, the some of the criminal activities in this blockchain technology. So the activity of your user behavior identifying is difficult. So let alone subject to the legal transaction, some frequent criminal activities with Bitcoin, which includes this, the ransomware. So as we know, this ransomware is a piece of software. So that basically, attached into the executable files, the ransomware attack. So in this ransomware, the criminals often use this concept of your ransomware, the threat for money extortion and the employ bitcoins as trading currency. So in July 2014, another, the concept published by an author as ransomware named called your CTB locker in the year 2014. One ransomware named card was CTB crypto currency Bitcoin locker ransomware was spread around the world by discussing itself as the mail attachment. So if the user clicks the attachment, the ransomware will run in the background of the system and encrypt almost about 114 files or 114 type of each file. So the victim has to pay the attacker a certain amount of your Bitcoin within 96 hours. So otherwise, the encrypted file will not be restored on the system of your user. So in May 2017, around the May 2017, another paper was published with certain what you call the another ransomware, which is the WannaCry ransomware attachment was there. It is also named as your Wana Crypto. So it is infected around 230K victims across 150 countries in 2 days. So it exploited a vulnerability in Windows systems to spread and the encrypted users' files to ask for the Bitcoin ransom. So the another type of your criminal activity that you find the underground market. So this underground market the Bitcoin is often used as the currency in the underground market. For example, you might have heard about this, the Silk Road underground market was there. Our Silk Road is and the anonymous international online marketplace. So that operates as a Tor hidden service and uses the Bitcoin as its the exchange currency. So the top, some categories of the items available in this the Silk Road is one category is the weed category, the drugs category. It finds some prescription categories that comes under this the underground market. That is the prescriptions. Another one is your the benjos, books, hash, pills. So these are some categories comes under this underground market, that silk road market. So in this they use this Bitcoin as their currency exchange in the market. So since the international transaction accounts for a significant proportion in this skill road, so Bitcoin makes the transaction in the underground market more convenient, which will cause harm to a social uh, the security. And another kind of criminal activity which was identified, and the difficulties of this Bitcoin application is your money laundering one. So since Bitcoin has the feature like anonymity and network virtual payment, and has been adapted by many countries. So it compared with other currencies, Bitcoin carries the lowest risk of being used for money laundering. So one of the author called the Cody, who has given a research contribution that proposed one dark wallet in his paper in his research paper, and a Bitcoin. It is a Bitcoin application that can make the Bitcoin transaction completely stealthy and private. So this dark wallet can encrypt transaction information and mix the user's valid bitcoins with the chops coin, and hence it can make the money laundering the much easier to validate that particular coin. So this is, these are some criminal activities which are happening by using this blockchain vulnerabilities. So then we have seen that double spending is another kind of your activity. So the although the consensus mechanism of your blockchain can validate transactions, it is still impossible to avoid double spending, because double spending refers to that the consumer user uses the same cryptocurrency multiple times for transactions. So in this scenario, if you see the example, an attacker can leverage the race attack for double spending. So this kind of attack is relatively easy to implement in proof of work consensus mechanism or proof of work based mechanism. So you just think, uh, because the attacker can exploit the intermediary time between two transactions, initiation and confirmation, to quickly launch an attack. So before the second transaction is mined to be invalid, the attacker has already got the first transaction's output, and resulting in double spending there. So one of the paper, which was proposed, I mean the some method in the year 2017, the author name is your Ghassan. We conduct an analysis of this double spending against the fast payment in Bitcoin and propose an attack model, as you can see in this, the slide. So, assuming that an attacker knows the vendor's address first, and to perform double spending, the attacker will send two transactions. One is your TXV and one is your TXA transactions. So these and choose the same Bitcoin, that is cryptocurrency in this Bitcoin, as inputs for this transaction V and transaction A. So this transaction V's, the recipient address is set to the targeted vendor address, and transaction A's recipient address is set to the colluding address controlled by the attacker. So then start spending these the same Bitcoin for different transactions. So if the attacker reaches any of these conditions, then the double spending will be the successful. If you see that the first condition is transaction V added to the wallet of the target vendor, and second condition is if the transaction V is mined as valid into the blockchain, and the third one is the attacker gets this TV's output before the vendor detects the misbehavior. So if the attack is successful, then the transaction for your vendor will eventually be verified as an invalid transaction, and your bitcoins are really spent by your transaction A here in this case for this colluding address. So, so the attacker has received this transaction V output, and which is the vendor's normal service, since transaction A's recipient address is controlled by the attacker. So these bitcoins are still owned by the attacker. So in this double spending model, the attacker enjoys the service without paying any bitcoin. So another, the risk we have seen the transaction privacy leakage in this. So since the user behavior in the blockchain are traceable, so the blockchain system takes the measure to protect the transaction privacy of users. So in the Bitcoin and your Zcash, they use the one-time account to store the received cryptocurrency. So moreover, the user needs to assign a private key to each transaction. So in this case, the attacker cannot infer whether the cryptocurrency in different transactions is received by the same user. So the users can include some the chaff coins called the mixins in that, and when they initiate a transaction, so that the attacker cannot infer the linkage of actual coins spent by the transaction. So unfortunately, the privacy protection measures in blockchain are not very robust. So in one research paper which proposed this transaction privacy leakage, the empirically evaluate two linkability weakness in the mixing the sampling strategy, and around discovered that 66% of all the transactions that do not contain any mixins. So since the users uses these transactions and use their private keys for these transactions, so each transaction input the explicitly identifies the coin being spent, so thus forming a linkage gap. So in this case, a new transaction that spends a available coin, so So that is the second circle from the right here. So each transaction identifies set of coins and include the real coin along with several chaff coins. They called the mix-ins here. So many mix-ins can be ruled out by the deductions. So since user may use the output of zero mixing transactions as uh, they use these mixins will be the doubled, and moreover they study the sampling method of your mixins and find that the selected mixins is not really the random. So the newer transactions, that is the your transaction outputs, tend to be used more frequently. So the further discovery that around 62.32% of transaction input with this mixins are the deducible. So by exploiting these weaknesses, they can infer the actual transaction inputs with around 80% in this one. So the real input is usually the newest one in the transaction, the privacy leakage one. So what will be there in this case? If it in terms of Bitcoin, it is based on your consensus. So the consensus is based on your what you call the majority of your uh, mining pool. They should come to a conclusion that the transaction, all the transactions in that block is valid, so that block can be added to your blockchain. But in that pool of your miners, some miners may become selfish because it is completely based upon the incentives, right? Reward points. So is Bitcoin mining protocol incentives is compatible or not? Means there are some the selfish mining attacks can be happen here. So we call this selfish mining. So the selfish mine, which allows a pool of your sufficient size to obtain the revenue, which is larger than its ratio of your mining power. So as you know that every pool, the mining pool, they try to collect number of transactions and try to build the blocks, and those blocks are broadcasted among all the miners, and if majority achieved, then that will be added. So in this, it gives that no one can deny that it is not created by those users by following the crypto methods in this. So for simplicity, without loss of your generality, that miners are divided into suppose two groups, that colluding minority pool and that follows the selfish mining strategy, and a majority that follows the honest mining strategy. So there will be the selfish pool as well as the public pool will be there in the network. So the key insight behind this selfish mining strategy is to force the honest miners into the performing wasted competition and the stable public branch. So this the blockchain branches. So the selfish mining forces the honest miners to spend their cycles on the blocks that are destined to not be part of your blockchain. So these selfish miners, achieve this goal by selecting the selectively revealing their mind blocks to the invalidate the most honest miners' work. So approximately, speaking, this selfish mining pool keeps its mind blocks privately, not like publicly. They try to build their blocks in a separately in this as a private block, at their own. So meanwhile, the honest miners continue mining on uh, the shorter and public branch. So, because the selfish miners command a relatively the small portion of the total mining power, their private branch will not remain ahead of the public branch indefinitely. So consequently, the selfish mining judicially reveals the blocks from the private branch to the public, such that the honest miners will switch to the recently revealed blocks and abandoning the shorter public branch. So this renders their the previous effort spent on this shorter public branch wasted, and it enables the selfish pool to collect the higher revenue by incorporating the higher fraction of its blocks into the blockchain. So by armed with this, initiation, we can fully, specify that the selfing mining strategy is a strategy driven by mining events by the selfish pool or by the others. So its decisions depends only on relatively the length of the operation of your selfish mining strategy by going through some sample scenarios. So you just check it out. In this case, the pool is the intentionally forking the chain for keeping the discoverable blocks in a private, and then they try to reveal the honest, means they try to build a blockchain which is one block bigger than one or more blocks bigger than the actual blockchain or honest node blocks. So then, to get the rewards, they try to, when the public branch approaches the pool's private branch in the length, then the selfish miner reveals these blocks from their private chain to the public to get the reward point. So let us see that at any stage, so how the selfish nodes they try to work out. So we'll try to analyze that at in the revenue or getting the revenue for these miners, the probability distribution over the state space that provides the foundation for analyzing the revenue obtained by these selfish pools. So that is one is any state at any state, but two branches of length, one is greater than your private branch. So the pool appends one block to its private branch by increasing its lead on the public branch by one. So the revenue from this block will be determined later. So like if a block is there, by using that block, the private block will be created by pool, and but that is not going to be published. It will wait for a period of time and try to build the various blocks by this pool, but not by the public block. So in the public block, they are building the same block, having the same collection of your transactions in that, but the selfish mining node or selfish mining attack, they don't broadcast it with other the miners in the network, but they create their own private network, private branches. So then they will wait for no for revenue from this block. They will determine later how they will find. So the second was two branches use the same length of action, means that is there was two branches of length, and pools finds a block in that, and the pool publish its secret branch of length 2 compared to your public branches, and then the pool publish its this the 11 pool and 12 pool, and when these two blocks are published by this miners, I mean the selfish mining one, then the honest miners, those who are building this 11 public, that will be updated by this 12. So the in this case, the selfish mining obtaining a revenue of for two blocks. So another one is was two branches of length, the same length, and others find a block after pool head, then the pool and the other obtain a revenue of each. So both are building. This is another case. Was two branches. So the honest node also get revenue for one block, and the pool will also get revenue for your one block. So another case of your selfish one is was two branches uh, of the same length, and others find a block after the other's head, then the others obtain the revenue of your two blocks in this. So from the previous block 10, the honest nodes are honest, the mining are honest miners also build a new block, so they'll get one revenue, and the another new block is added by the honest blocks. So that is your 12 in this case. So they will get the revenue for your block 11 as well as your block 12 in this. That is was two branches of length. So and that is others means your honest branch find the block after others head. And another case is no private branches in this case. Then how it happens means the others find a block, so the others obtain a revenue of one, and both the pool and the others start mining on the new block. They start, creating on the new block. So others obtain the revenue of one in this case. Next one is the lead was one, and others are your, the honest miners find a block. That means now there are suppose the two cases, there are two branches of the length one of your public, that means your honest miners and your the pool miners are colludio pool miners. So now both are having the branch length of one, and the pool publishes its single secret block. Suppose uh, then the pool tries to mine one its previously privated head, and the others split between the two heads. How they are going to be published. So this denotes by the ratio of others that choose the non-pool block. So the revenue from this block cannot be determined yet, because it depends on which branch will win based on consensus mechanism. So it will be counted later. And another case of selfish mining is there is a lead was suppose two, suppose instead of one, if there is a lead of two and others find a block in that, then the others almost close the gap as the lead drops to one, and the pool publishes its secret blocks because it is causing the everybody to start mining at the head of your previous private branch. So since it is longer, so the pool obtains a revenue of your two. This so in this honest, the miners, they publish, they have only one black, but whereas you are the selfish miners, created three different blocks, but in a privately not published. When it is when the second block is suppose published by your honest users, and then if the pooler also publish the three blocks, then the poolers, that means your the selfish miners, they will get the revenue of two. So pool obtains the revenue of two here. So this is the another case. And if you find, suppose the lead was more than, suppose, two blocks in the uh, pool side, so they have more than this, two blocks here. So in that case, the honest nodes will win in that case. So the others are, in this case, the honest miners that decrease the lead, and which remains at least two. So the new block, say with number 11, 12, and suppose 13, will end the outside the chain once the pool publishes its entire branch. No, therefore, the others obtain nothing. So the pool now reveals its uh, 11th block, 12th block, and your 13th block in this case, and obtain a revenue of one block. In this case, for the pool, the 13th block, they will get the revenue. So based on this concept, they calculate the revenue of the pool and the of the honest miners from the state of probability and the transition frequencies. The how the revenue will be computed, that is addressed in this paper as the revenue of your others, uh, or the revenue of your the public will be computed based on this probabilistic transaction, that in case of different cases, it is computed based on your the profit, which is multiplied by some ratio of your 1 minus alpha. So, as the intentional, the branches brought on by selfish mining that leads the honest miners to work on blocks, so that end up outside the blockchain. So, in turn, it leads to a drop in the total block generation rate, with the revenue of your selfish miner plus the revenue of your what you call the honest one is always less than the probability of your one. So this, so therefore, the actual revenue rate of your each agent is the revenue ratio rate, we say. So this is the selfish mining attack that takes place inside the blockchain. So we see this. There are some specific risks to obtain in the blockchain that we have observed. If it is a permissioned blockchain, then it is going to execute all smart contracts. So those smart contracts will be executed, but sometimes if those smart contracts are suppose what you call compromised by any of the attackers, then they try to execute the smart contracts on every state replicated machines. So those, a few things would like to cover in this. So the next, we are saying that the next attack is the risk of your blockchain is or compromising any node in the network. We call that the Eclipse attack part. So in this, the Eclipse attacks, so the main intention of this Eclipse attacks is they try to compromise what you call any one node in the network, and then doing some kind of the transaction oriented, or research oriented type of we say that denial of service attack type, that the actual user cannot reach to any other one in this I mean the network. So that is the Eclipse attack that allows the attacker to monopolize all of the victims' incoming and outgoing connections. So which isolates the victims from the other peers in the network. So if you consider that we have some nodes, the normal nodes, and a node which is going to be become a victim node by the attackers. So then, in a distributed network and in a peer-to-peer network, every node is going to connect with every other node, and that connection established, happens by using the TCP connection, and they use their IP addresses for identification purpose. So then the attacker can just filter the victim's view of your blockchain in the network. So these they can communicate each other, they can exchange their distributed ledger in the network. So in that, some attackers try to find out a specific node or only one node in the network, and try to attack that victim node. So what happens that the attacker just can filter this victim's view of blockchain, or let the victim cost unnecessary computing power on the absolute view of the blockchain. So further, this attacker is able to leverage the victim's computing power to conduct its own malicious act. So, by considering two types of the Eclipse attack on Bitcoin in peer-to-peer network, namely the botnet attack and the infrastructure attack. So, the botnet attack is launched by bots with the diverse IP address ranges. So, in these attackers, they just compromise, they try to connect with this victim node, and once they get the vulnerabilities of this victim node, then these nodes try to control this victim node and disconnect this victim node from all other nodes in the network. So all other, when it is disconnected, then it is because of all other nodes are disconnected because of this attacking nodes. So then there will be a network partition will be done here. So in the attacking, I mean in the mining process. So when this victim node in that summary, if it is simplified, that the victim node will be chosen or selected by your attacker, and attacker takes a position between the normal connection to other normal nodes in the network, that we call the rest of your network. Then upon this attacker node that off the path attack, and attacker controls these end hosts in the rest network. So but not the key network infrastructure between the victim and your rest of your Bitcoin network here in this case. So, in summary, around the benefits of the vulnerability which we have identified, that 51% of attack vulnerability, by using that, uh, the computation power, the hashing power of this attacker is suppose more than the hashing power of your normal nodes in the network. Then after building a few blocks in the blockchain, your attacker will become the winner. And because of this 40% of hashing power of this attacker will try to control the rest of your network. So when attacker is trying to control the rest of network, as we discussed in this vulnerability, attacker either can modify the blocks, or alter the blocks, or they can change the transactions in the blocks. They can create the transactions in the blocks. So attacker just partition the miners, so they can't build on each other's blocks. When they are partitioned, they don't collect all the updated transactions from every block. But this user, the attacker, is connected to every other, the normal node. So this attacker can get all the updated transactions. So new transactions means when it reach to the maximum transactions in the block, that will be accepted by all other participants in this, right? But whether those transactions are modified or not is not known. So the attacker then, auto completes each partition miner and become the winner, and that attacker's block is going to be added to the blockchain. So whereas your the 30% hashing power is obviously less than your 40% hashing power, so your miner, the attacker will get the chance every time to build a block. So this kind of attack, that attacker populates the victim's nodes peer table with attackers the IP addresses, because they build their the IP address table to identify the nodes in the network. So that populates this victim's node, because it we call the IP spoofing also. So the victim node restarts and loses the current outgoing connection from the network. So by resetting the in TCP IP header, there are some important bits are there. 6 bits are used for your connection establishment. Reset the connection, or finishing the connection, synchronizing the connection, where the push connection bits are there. So like 6 bits will be there. Among that, the reset connection bit will be there. That reset connection bit set by your attacker, that reset the connection from this the victim node. Then every node in the network, they try to finish the connection and restart. When restart, then your when it restarts, it loses the current outgoing connection. When current outgoing connection is restarted, loses, then what are the new transactions are there in the pool, the mining pool is not known to this user. So then obviously it's a hashing power reduce, right? So the victim establishes all new outgoing connections to the attacker's IP addresses there. So in that, the first, as you said, populating of your the IP address of your victim, the victim. So each node picks its peers from the IP addresses which are stored in 2 tables. One is new table and tried table. So every node the attacker maintains 2 tables. So in new table, the IPs of the node has heard about it, and the tried table, that IPs the node peered with some point in the previous time. So the table also stores the timestamp for each IP addresses. So each table stores these IPs in the buckets. So then how these IP addresses will be used for further to disconnect the victim from the network and force the victim to reconnect and to build the new IP address table for routing purpose, so routing table. So how it is going to be considered, that we'll try to discuss in the next class. So these are some research areas where the vulnerabilities of your blockchain can be addressed in a newer method way. So this is one of the attack. So and the 51% of your vulnerability attack. So if you are interested, then you can select these topics further for your the research proposals, and to make some research in that direction, narrow direction in the blockchain technology. So with this, I would just like to stop this session.